Greetings everyone, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, here to bring you another retro review from past seasons of The Loud House. But today, I'm not here alone. Back with me once again to help review this episode is my good friend, FeemToons. Welcome back, Feem!
Hey! SpeedTunes here. Sup, everyone?
What's up? Well, it's another one of our favorite episodes that we're going to be reviewing from Season 4 of The Loud House, and hey, what do you know? It's another Lola and Lana episode. That seems to be our recurring theme around here. Just review the Lola and Lana episodes. So, you might be wondering which episode of Lola and Lana we will be looking at today. Well, like I said, it's from Season 4, and it's where they pull the old switcheroo, and it nearly worked out in their favor. Today's episode is titled Sister Act. First, we'll discuss the plot, and then our thoughts and critiques with our final scores. So, let's get right into it. The episode begins with Lola preparing for an upcoming pageant and Lana working to win a recycling contest. Just before dinner, a freak glitter accident gives Lola the idea to send Lana in her place, and her twin returns the favor when it's time to take a bath. They then decide to start switching places in order to get out of things they don't like doing. However, their charade to get out of their respective doctor appointments results in Lola getting a cold and Lana developing an abscess on her tooth. After their respective ailments become too much to bear, the twins are forced to admit what they've been doing the whole time. The episode ends with Lola and Lana finally embracing the things they didn't like before, and it turns out these things are not as bad as they once thought. Well, that concludes the plot of the episode, so now we come to our thoughts and critiques. Our first positives would have to be, well, as to be expected, Lola and Lana. And, Feem, would you like to start this one off?
Yeah, sure. I like that Lola and Lana really had each other's backs, because it shows how strong their bond is and how they're willing to help each other in different scenarios. Also, I'll say props to Grey Griffin for being able to voice Lana voicing Lola, voicing Lana voicing Lola. It's crazy. Like, she did such a great job with that.
I agree. She did a really good job of Lola trying to be Lana, because I'll be honest, it just clicked so much easier for her to do that than it would be for Lana trying to be Lola, because you could definitely tell the inflection between Lana trying to be her twin and her actual twin talking nearly worked, but hey, Lola trying to be Lana, way better in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that made it sound more authentic, because she could have easily just done the voices as she does them, just with the opposite character. But I like the creative choice here was to have it where it sounded like the sister, like say Lana impersonating Lola and Lola impersonating Lana, rather than just simply just doing their original voices. Props to the team and props to Grey Griffin, because that was far more creative and realistic, in my opinion, than what they could have done.
Indeed. But speaking of realistic, I really liked that this story was sort of a callback to the episode Cover Girls, which is pretty much the same as this episode. Siblings taking on the persona of someone else in their family in order to do things or not do things. And I'll be honest, I kind of like this one a little bit more than Cover Girls because, well, it seems a little bit more realistic since Lola and Lana are the only two that can easily pull this off because they're identical twins.
Yeah, I can agree with you there that it was definitely a more realistic one of the two. But in terms of entertainment, I'm gonna have to say I preferred Cover Girls because we got to see more differentiating between the siblings. To me, it had more entertainment value than this one. But I think both episodes are good in their own way. It was just more funny to me. But yeah, this one definitely was the more realistic of the two because they're twins. So it's more believable that they would believe that they are each other rather than, say, like Laurie as Lincoln, for example.
Yeah, about that, I know it may not be the most popular opinion, but I really think Cover Girls just kind of wasn't all that great. I mean, it wasn't bad, but as far as the entertainment goes, it had the right idea. They just did a little bit too much with it, and they didn't need to keep up that charade. And that's what I talk about in my review of the video, so people can go and check that out for my full thoughts on that. But on the whole, no matter what, I still enjoyed both episodes for what they were. Again, Sister Act I prefer a little bit more. And as far as Lola and Lana go, I really liked their sisterly chemistry they had here. I mean, even though they were technically just trying to get out of doing things like climbing a rope and solving math problems, you could tell they were really looking out for each other's best interests, and deep down, they understand each other way better than anyone else.
Yeah, I definitely prefer seeing them as in this light than seeing them like going against each other, because to me it's just more enjoyable to watch them play off each other with their different personalities than to go against each other with their different personalities. It just makes for a smoother story, and it's not so obvious, I suppose, because it's like, oh, siblings fighting, seen it, twins fighting, seen it. It's like, it's so, to me it's like this nice level where we see them like interacting one-on-one without as many conflicts, and the conflict they have to approach together rather than they give each other different conflicts, I suppose.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from there. Now, as far as that conflict does go, and having them embrace their conflicts together, but from different angles, I do have some problems with it, but I'll get back to that in just a little bit. But now we're going to talk about Rita and Lynn, and they were your positive, so you have the floor with this one.
Alright, well, I like that they treated Lana and Lola as grown-ups. They said, well, you're not babies anymore, so you shouldn't be worm their way out of important activities and important things they have to do, like the dentist or doctor, for example. So I like that they had that firm approach, but I like that it wasn't too strict. I like that they told them off, but they still had their best interests at heart as well, in my opinion, where they were like, okay, well, we'll just rephone the doctor and the dentist.
Absolutely. I really liked how they were not going to go down the path of, okay, we're just going to punish you, we're going to ground you, and all that stuff. I'm glad they really took the approach of just being calm with it, saying, hey, you girls are getting older. You can't just try to avoid doing things you don't want to do by switching places. You have to be adults. You have to start doing things you don't want to do. And I think that's a really good message to be teaching everyone. But considering how we got from point A to point B in this episode, and how Rita and Lynn were so easily duped, that's where I have to start talking about the negatives of this episode. And they would be Rita and Lynn. I'll just first start off by saying it's one thing if Lola and Lana want to trick their teachers at school and maybe their classmates because, well, they're not really seen every single hour of the day like they would be at home. But when it comes to being at home and seeing their differences in behavior on full display when they were impersonating one another, it makes you wonder how they couldn't see right through the obvious differences in behavior. I mean, Lana was going to town on that food. Well, Lola was going to town on that food, and Lola dressed up as Lana, really wanting to go and have a bath. I'm willing to buy into the idea of the siblings not saying anything because just like Cover Girls, they figured, hey, these two are covering for each other and, you know, we're not going to rat them out. So I understand that part. But for Rita and Lynn to not see through the obvious picking out that Lana was doing and Lola, yeah, you know what I mean.
I definitely see where you're coming from, because it did make the parents seem, I guess, not so good, because it's like they shouldn't be able to tell the two twins apart. They raised them and whatnot. They should know the difference between Lana and Lola, even if they're trying to pretend to be each other. And when they switched, Lana and Lola didn't look exactly like each other. They still had, like, when Lola was trying to be Lana, she still had like a hair swoop and still had like the more wavy sort of pigtails, whereas Lana, when she was pretending to be Lola, had more straight hair, more like, and her like bangs were like how she has them, basically. So it's not like they completely transformed themselves to look exactly like each other. So yeah, the parents maybe should have seen through that, and I'm not sure why they didn't.
I guess if anything, it was just for plot convenience, just to move the story forward. But as far as moving the story forward goes, at least on Rita's side, there is one thing that really bothers me about her setting up these doctor appointments. And for someone like me who pays attention to continuity, I am not ignoring this or letting her off the hook. Now, here's my problem with Rita in this episode. She used to work with Dr. Feinstein at his dentist's office as a dental hygienist in the past few seasons. Now, wouldn't she know if one of her daughters had something wrong with their teeth, considering that she just might have been working on all of her kids' teeth at some point in the past? Better yet, if Lola and Lana have been going to the same dentist, wouldn't there be one individual dental record for each of the twins? I mean, it's hinted that Lana has had cavities in the past, so how could Feinstein, or Rita for that matter, screw up the dental records and realize Lana had no cavity fillings despite the fact that she got them before? I mean, you can come up with whatever explanation you want, because I have no idea.
I'll have a little bit of a thing to say here. I guess it's because Dr. Feinstein's the one that worked on teeth and not the mom, maybe? Because I guess they have like the patient confidentiality, but at the same time, the dentist should have realized that, oh, how come you suddenly have no cavities? Yeah, so I see where you're coming from, because I get that there'll be confidentiality, because my mom also works for a dentist, and the dentist doesn't tell her everything that goes on with my teeth, because, well, it's still that patient confidentiality you still have to obtain, even if like a parental figure works at that same location as you're having your dentistry done. But that's just my experience.
Well, yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from here, and I'd be more willing to believe that if Rita didn't work for Dr. Feinstein at all, or it was never mentioned in any of the past episodes or seen for that matter, I could have been more willing to let Rita off the hook with this. But I don't know, there's just something about the idea of someone who used to work as a dental hygienist and probably knows her daughter's teeth more than her own boss, and just to be told, hey, your daughter has no cavities this time, despite that I just filled them in last time. So I don't know, it just didn't sit right with me. And it also doesn't help knowing Lana's abscess pain only started to occur after the appointment. Same thing for Lola suddenly getting sick after her appointment with Dr. Peterson, and I don't know why it had to take so little time for them to have all this pain and sickness build up, when honestly there should have been a little bit more build to this sudden revelation. Oh, Lola's sick and we didn't know, and Lana's sick, we didn't know, and yeah, just whatever.
It felt a bit too convenient, but yeah, also then I just figured something as well. It's like, because they are still kids, so it would make sense for the dentist to tell the mom what's going on with the situation with the teeth. Yeah, I just thought it was just a little bit, I guess, too convenient. I guess again it was for the plot to move forward and for them to, I guess, realize their mistakes with switching for these important situations, but I feel like there was a better way of doing it than just being like, oh yeah, so Lola just gets sick conveniently, and well, Lana certainly just has tooth pain. She didn't seem to have before that for some reason, because I mean she eats the food earlier in the scene perfectly fine without any like issues. From the look of the tooth, it looked like it'd been like that for a while, so surely there would have been a little bit of a wincing when she was eating before. So like what you said, there should have been more build up to it.
Exactly, like if Lana was eating the food and she was cupping her mouth like, oh no, my tooth, and maybe if Lola was starting to get the sniffles throughout the episode, I could have been more willing to believe this, and you know, I wouldn't be so critical of it. But when you have very little build, and again, given the dental records between two identical twins, one has cavities, one doesn't, and you just mix it all together, it just comes off as, well, isn't that rather convenient? I'm not saying it's the worst possible way to push a story forward, but it's definitely not something that I prefer, but that's just how I look at it.
Yeah, no, I can definitely agree with that though, because it just, like we said before, it was just too like convenient of a choice, and like, yeah, we get the plot needs to move forward, but to me it should have been done in a more clever way and have more build up to it.
Overall, this episode is pretty good when it comes to the typical Lola and Lana storylines. As usual, their opposite personalities played off one another very well, and they did have their cute moments together as they learned to be more grown up when it comes to doing things they once tried to avoid. It's a life lesson we all had to learn when we were growing up, so that's good. Again, even though I prefer this episode over Cover Girls, even though it's essentially the same plot, this one had a bit more realism to it, but that's just me. If you're willing to look past the negatives I have on the adults, specifically the parents and the doctors, as well as the quick development of each twin's respective ailments, and the quick clothing change they have in the car, this one is definitely worth watching again and again. With that said, I give Sister Act a 9 out of 10.
Overall, a great episode. I didn't have any real negatives here. Okay, the one little nitpick I'll have is that maybe they could have toned down the booger visuals, personally, but that was really just a minor nitpick, and didn't affect the score of the episode for me. I especially enjoyed the close-up of Lana and Lola in this episode. I much prefer this side of the sisterly bonds over them bickering and fighting, and they looked adorable in each other's outfits, and both learned a valuable lesson in the episode. So in all, I enjoyed this this episode. It had good morals, good character moments, and it's one of my favorite episode plots. The characters switching places, like Cover Girls, it was entertaining and done well. Perhaps not, in my opinion, not as good as Cover Girls, but it definitely deserves a fair score of a 9 out of 10 for me.
Well, folks, that concludes our review of Sister Act. You can never go wrong with an episode starring Lola and Lana, and this one is certainly no exception. So, what did you guys think of it? Love it? Hate it? Something you would add? Change? Keep it as it is? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to this channel for the latest Loud House content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling,
and Theme Tunes. Hopefully I'll be back for some more reviews, and it's been fun doing these collab reviews, so see y'all when I see y'all, I guess.
Of course, I hope to see you back here for some more reviews in the near future, but until then, this is us signing off. Peace out, home slices.
And cheerio, darlings.